All right, back on the conversation. And now we've got a great progressive candidate for you guys. It's Pam Keith. She's running in 18th District of Florida. She's a Navy veteran, a progressive attorney, and she has an excellent chance of winning. And this would be a red to blue flip by a progressive. So that would be a huge electoral win, not just for Democrats, but for progressives. So Pam, great to have you back on the TYT Network.
Always a delight to be with you, and I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Pam ran as a Just Democrat last time. She was with us in Miami. If you guys saw our coverage there of the debates. So Pam, you've got a lot of controversy in your congressional run here. The Republican about Brian Mast has apparently said some pretty deplorable things, to say the least. What happened there?
Well, it's hard to pick which one of the two Republicans on the ballot in November is more deplorable. I'll get to that in a minute. But Brian, shortly after the primary, got caught with these Facebook posts in which he was commenting on the page of his best friend, who is currently his campaign manager. The first comment was on a picture that the manager had posted while he was on vacation in South Africa with some very young girls. And Brian commented that he was so proud of him and that he wanted his campaign manager to have sex with as many 15-year-old girls as he could while he was over there because he thought it was legal in South Africa to do that. For the record, it's not. But whether it is or it is not, it's still revolting. But he alone is not. And then a year later, he made some even more ridiculous comments on that same Facebook relationship where they were asking what was a good pickup line. And Brian said, hey, the good pickup line is don't turn this rape into a murder. Now, I want to remind you that at the time that Brian was making these comments, he was married. He was on active duty in the military. He had women in his unit and command. So it's not just locker room talk. He left those comments up on a Facebook in public for 11 years. That's a sign that they didn't trouble him, and it sure didn't trouble the guys he was hanging out with. I think that's pretty sad.
Look, it would be terrible enough if he was joking. My guess is he said he was joking. Is that right?
He says he's embarrassed about it now.
Okay.
And I'm not entirely sure that means he was joking. But it really doesn't matter to me whether he thinks he was joking or not. I mean, at the end of the day, the reason we have trafficking of teenagers and children for sex abuse is because of people who think like that.
To me, the critical part there is that he's directing it at someone who's in South Africa and saying, hey, I think the legal limit there is 15, so see if you can do that. That, even if some folks wanted to cut him a break on jokes, that feels like it's not really a joke.
No.
And that's the super disturbing part.
You couldn't be more right. I mean, he was encouraging this guy, right? He wasn't bragging about something he does, like Trump saying, oh, they let me do whatever I want. He was encouraging this guy to have as many 15-year-old girls as he could.
I know, but down in that area of Florida, you guys don't have any child sex trafficking, do you?
Well, there's this, well, certainly not, except for the one named Jeffrey Epstein who lived in our district for years.
Oh boy.
He trafficked in young girls for years.
That's a particularly unfortunate comment for someone that represents Epstein's district to make. I'm sure that QAnon and Republicans are outraged at him and probably think that he's part of some ring, or maybe they're not really concerned about that issue and they're trying to use it against Democrats. Anyway, yeah.
Well, we do have our own QAnon candidate. We have actually 2 Republicans on the ballot because in Florida, we have closed primaries, so independents go automatically to the general election ballot. And we have KW Miller, who is running as the QAnon candidate, who is convinced that Patti LaBelle is part of the deep state being paid by George Soros, and that Beyonce is not black, that she's Italian and pretending to be black so that she could get attention. KW is also of the opinion that white women who join Black Lives Matter are doing it solely so that they can have sex with black men.
I believe there are other ways. Has she ever heard of Tinder? It's not that hard.
Well, But just
was your
about the
intent.
guys I'm running against, right?
Okay, wow. I mean, that is a murderous row. So Roger Stone came out against masked,
Right.
and apparently Roy Moore in Alabama thought he was too much of a hypocrite. Is that because they think he's too toxic, or is that because they like the QAnon one better?
I think there is definitely contingency of the GOP that prefers the QAnon guy because Brian had the temerity to pretend like he supported an assault rifles ban for all of like 6 seconds, and they considered that to be the greatest betrayals. So, the Miller guy is Mr. Let's militia up, let's get as many assault weapons as humanly possible. I deserve to have a howitzer and a grenade launcher too. So there's definitely a contingency that of the extreme gun, pro-gun people that are Miller people, and of course he's unabashed about his racism. So there's certainly a component that buys into that. How big of a contingency is hard to tell, but it doesn't have to be much to make a difference in this district.
I don't think I understand the Florida system well enough. So is it the 3 of you on the ballot? And if that's the case, I mean, you already had a really good chance of winning this seat because it's close enough. Aren't they gonna split the vote and give you a much better chance?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, this district is the most difficult to characterize because it can be a razor thin margin between a DNR, which it was in 2014 or 2012. It can be a 20-point win for a Democrat, which it was in 2014. It can be a 10-point win for the Republican, which it was in 2016. I mean, it can be any one of those things because it's really about, these are not changes in population, they're changes in momentum. So this is the season of momentum on the blue side, and it is heavily influenced by the turnout of African-American voters who happen to be big fans of mine.
I think your only issue is getting past the Patti LaBelle problem. Okay, so by the way, guys, PamKeithFL.com, obviously FL stands for Florida, PamKeithFL.com. So Pam has an excellent chance of winning this. And turning a red seat blue with a progressive would make a giant difference. So
absolutely.
And so for folks that are clean, uncorrupted candidates, your donations and your volunteering makes all the difference. We'll have all the links down below if you're watching later on YouTube or Facebook. So make sure you check those out and click those. But Pam, let me keep going. I mean, these Republicans in your district have a murderer's row of problems. So in terms of veterans, yes, you and Mass are both veterans, but Mass is backing Donald Trump, who called veterans suckers and losers. How is that going to play out in the district?
Well, that was one of our first ads that we put up on TV, was calling him out on the cowardice of not standing up for the heroes that have died to protect this country. But I think Brian and I are going to be debating on October the 5th. I think it might be the first and or only debate in which you have a progressive veteran debating a conservative veteran, and me being a female and him being male. I think that this is going to be really interesting, but it's not just suckers and losers. Remember, Russia's put bounties on the heads of our troops. Brian had nothing to say. When Donald Trump called people suffering from PTSD just weak-minded, of all the people in Congress who had standing to call Donald Trump out on that, Brian Mast should have said something he never did. I mean, the insults and injuries to veterans, it's just compounded by the fact that Brian just will not ever stand up against Donald Trump. And he's never going to be able to out-patriot me. He doesn't get to wrap himself up in the flag and own the Constitution on me, because not only did I serve and I deployed, but so did my father. And the blood of those African Americans who died protecting a Constitution they didn't get to enjoy has paid in full. So, that's the conversation I can't wait to have. I won the primary for this district with 80% of the vote, an increased turnout by 8,500 votes over our previous best primary. A strong, progressive woman can win with the help.
Yeah, what I love about Pam isn't just how progressive she is or how accomplished she is, but it's how strong she is. And so it's just so refreshing to see. Pam, you'd be the first female Black veteran in Congress. Is that true? That seems unbelievable.
It seems kind of unbelievable to me too, but I'm also the first Black woman to ever qualify for a ballot for U.S. Senate in Florida. So I'm intrepid and I'm not risk averse. I assert where I need to be, and I think women of color are leading the charge in a lot of ways. Progressives are leading the charge in so many ways. We think big, we're bold, we're not patient, we're not going to sit on the back of the bus. And so I'm looking forward to this opportunity. I'm gonna definitely take it to Brian, and with the help of progressives, I'm so proud that my money raising reflects my values. I haven't taken any corporate PAC money, not taking private prisons or FOP, any of that. My money reflects my values, and my values have been consistent for years. So I think we can win this.
Yeah, and especially in Florida, where there's now been 10,000 coronavirus deaths as they back Donald Trump, the Republicans in your race do. That is a terrible position to be in. Both in terms of politics, but also in terms of policy. So we got to send Pam in there to literally rescue people to make sure we don't have any more deaths. So PamKeithFL.com, please everybody check it out. I think you'll agree. And Pam, thanks so much for coming on, and thanks for running again. It makes all the difference. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Cenk, and it's a pleasure to be with the Young Turks. Always is.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.